In our modern world, we are taught to see time as a straight line. It is a river flowing ever forward from a primitive past into an ever brighter future. We see ourselves standing on the shoulders of giants, relentlessly climbing a ladder of progress. Our technology grows more sophisticated with each passing day. Our cities reach higher into the clouds. Our knowledge of the material universe expands exponentially. We have mapped the human genome and split the atom. We send probes to the furthest reaches of our solar system. This is the story we tell ourselves. It is a story of constant, linear advancement. A story where humanity is always moving onward and upward, destined for greatness. But is this story true? Look around you. Look past the gleaming screens and the towering skyscrapers. Do you see a world that is truly advancing? We have conquered diseases, yet our minds are plagued with anxiety and depression. We have connected the globe with instantaneous communication, yet we have never felt more isolated and alone. We produce enough food to feed the entire planet, yet millions still starve. We speak of peace and unity, yet our world is fractured by conflict, hatred, and division. Is this progress, or is it something else entirely? A slow, creeping decay masked by the glitter of technological achievement. What if our understanding of time is fundamentally flawed? What if time is not a straight line at all? Ancient cultures across the globe did not see time this way. They saw it as a circle, a great repeating cycle, like the turning of the seasons: summer, autumn, winter, spring. They believed that human civilization followed this same natural rhythm, a cycle of birth, growth, decay, and eventual rebirth. They understood that ages of light are inevitably followed by ages of darkness. This cyclical view suggests that we are not necessarily advancing. It dares to ask a terrifying question: have we been here before? This ancient perspective offers a chilling alternative to our modern narrative of endless progress. It suggests that our current era might not be the pinnacle of human achievement, but the final, fading moments of a long winter, a story of a great wheel, eternally turning through ages of gold, silver, bronze, and iron. Deep within the sacred texts of ancient India, this concept of cyclical time is given its most profound and detailed expression. The Hindu scriptures, known as the Puranas, speak of a great cosmic cycle called the Maha-Yuga. This is a vast period of time, which governs the spiritual and physical evolution of humanity on Earth. It is divided into 4 distinct ages, or yugas, each with its own unique character and spiritual density. These are not just arbitrary divisions of time, they are the cosmic seasons of the human soul. The cycle begins with the Satya Yuga. As the wheel of time turns, the world enters the Treta Yuga. Then comes the Dwapara Yuga. The cycle finally bottoms out in the age we find ourselves in today, the Kali Yuga. The prophecies claim that in this age, rulers will be little more than thieves. Wealth will be the only measure of a person's worth, and the bonds of family will fray. But the story of the Yuga cycle is not simply a prophecy of doom. And just as winter is always followed by spring, the ancient sages taught that the end of the Kali Yuga is not the end of humanity. It is merely the darkness before a new dawn. Let us cast our minds back to the beginning of the great cycle, to the first and most perfect of the 4 ages. This is the Satya Yuga, the age of truth. It was a time when humanity lived in a state of unbroken unity with the divine. There was no separation between the mortal and the immortal, between the creation and its creator. In this age, there were no churches, no temples, no mosques. There was no need for them. Religion, as we understand it, did not exist because spirituality was not a practice. It was the very air that people breathed. Humanity did not need to seek God through rituals because God was not an external entity to be sought. The divine presence, which the texts call Narayana, was a living, breathing reality within every single being. There was no concept of crime, no deception. The very idea of conflict was alien. Humanity lived as one single global family, without borders, without nations. It was a world governed by a single, unspoken law, the law of Dharma, or righteous conduct, which flowed naturally from the heart of every individual. The scriptures claim that the average height of a person during this golden age was an astonishing 21 cubits. This translates to roughly 31.5 feet. It is said that humans in the Satya Yuga lived for an incredible 100,000 years. Disease was unknown in this age. There was no poverty, no lack. The Puranas speak of kalpavriksha, wish-fulfilling trees that would grant any desire, a powerful metaphor for a world where intention and manifestation were one. How could such a perfect existence possibly come to an end? The catalyst was the birth of a single, subtle thought. This whisper was the birth of ego, the concept of I as separate from we. A single thought arose, this experience of bliss is mine. In that one thought, the illusion of separation was born. The perfect score of 100% virtue dropped to 99%. The cosmic clock had ticked forward, and the first hints of a cosmic autumn, the Treta Yuga, were now on the horizon. As the golden luminosity of the Satya Yuga began to fade, humanity descended into the second age, the Treta Yuga. Ancient texts say that in this silver age, Dharma decreased by 1/4. It now stood on 3 of its 4 legs. The effortless, innate connection to the divine was clouded. God was no longer an intimate internal presence, but distant, something to be reached for. Humanity devised a new bridge, external rituals. Great ceremonies emerged, elaborate sacrifices were performed. Spirituality became a system of doing. This was the dawn of kingship. The first borders were drawn upon the face of the earth, carving up the seamless whole into separate kingdoms and domains. This growing insecurity gave birth to one of the most transformative and divisive concepts in human history, the idea of private ownership. The ancient texts state that human lifespans decreased dramatically, from 100,000 years down to 10,000 years. The Great Wheel continues its downward turn. We leave the silver twilight of the Treta Yuga and descend further into shadow. This is the Dwapara Yuga, the Bronze Age. The pillar of Dharma, or righteousness, now stands on only 2 of its 4 legs. Virtue and vice now wage an open war within the heart of every single human being. A host of new afflictions descend upon mankind. Disease now becomes widespread. The faint whisper of doubt now becomes a roaring voice in the mind. Materialism takes deep and powerful root as humanity's connection to its own inner spiritual power wanes. A fascinating and dangerous paradox emerges. To compensate, humans turn creative energies outward. As the inner light dims, the forge fires burn brighter. An age of incredible invention, but at a terrible price. Technological prowess is not always noble. Without Dharma, knowledge becomes a tool for power and control. The culmination? The epic Mahabharata war engulfing the known world. It is a chronicle of a global war, fought with weapons so advanced they defy conventional explanation. These are the astras, celestial weapons. The descriptions of these weapons bear an uncanny resemblance to the most destructive technologies of our own modern age. Consider the Brahmastra. When unleashed, it was said to create a single incandescent projectile. It generated an immense fiery explosion, brighter than 1,000 suns. The blast would scorch the earth for miles. The hair and nails of soldiers would fall out. Their food would become contaminated, and a deadly, invisible poison would linger in the land for years. The epic speaks of the Narayanastra, which launched a volley of millions of self-guiding projectiles. It describes weapons that could control the weather. This was not primitive warfare, it was technological Armageddon. The death of Lord Krishna marks the final tragic end of this era. His departure signals the final withdrawal of divine grace from the world. With his passing, the last vestiges of virtue collapse, and humanity is plunged headlong into the final and darkest of the 4 ages, the Kali Yuga. This is the Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel, the age of vice, the iron age of the human spirit. This is the age in which we now find ourselves. Righteousness, or Dharma, stands on only one of its 4 legs. Virtue is at its lowest ebb, a mere 25%. Our lifespans are now drastically shortened, dwindling to a mere 100 years. The human body is frail. The mind itself is in a state of constant agitation and anxiety. The prophecies state that the leaders of this age will behave like common bandits. Wealth will be the only measure of a person's worth, and the bonds of family will fray. People seen as spiritual for putting on a show. Religion loses its essence, replaced by empty public rituals. What is truly astonishing is that these ancient Hindu prophecies find echoes in other cultures across the globe. The Hopi people of North America have a rich tradition of prophecy. The Hopi elders spoke of land crossed by iron snakes with smoke coming out of their mouths. It's almost impossible not to see this as railroads. Another chillingly accurate prophecy from the Hopi speaks of a spider's web being spun all around the sky. But today, we live directly underneath this web. Look at our world of telecommunications. We are all caught in a vast, invisible spider's web of information and communication, a technological network that connects us and yet also traps and isolates us. Modern science is beginning to uncover strange echoes of this ancient story. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence comes from a period around 12,800 years ago, the Younger Dryas. Looking even further back, around 74,000 years ago, the Toba supervolcano erupted, creating a bottleneck in the human population. As we survey the chaos of our current age, it is easy to fall into despair. But the story of the Yuga cycle is not ultimately a story about endings. It is a story about renewal. They speak of a final cleansing event, a final avatar of the divine will manifest on earth. This is the Kalki avatar. His purpose is not to save the corrupt world, but to cleanse it. The end of the Kali Yuga is not a permanent death, but a necessary and violent transition, like the harsh winds and biting frost that must come to kill off the rot and decay, before new life can sprout from the frozen ground. The arrival of Kalki represents the moment when the cosmic wheel finally reaches the bottom of its rotation and begins its slow, inexorable ascent back towards the light. This ancient wisdom teaches us that no winter lasts forever. The darkness of our age, as deep as it may seem, is finite. It is a test, a period of trial, and ultimately a purification. The end is not an end, but a beginning. The promise that after the long winter of the Kali Yuga, a new golden age of truth, harmony and light is waiting to be born once more.